Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and welcome to another episode of For Honor Executions Graded. This is the series where we took a look at all of For Honor's heroes, look over all of their executions, and give them a grade to find out just how good they really are. We're almost done, guys. We've gone through so many of the heroes now, and we're starting to wrap things up. Only a handful of heroes left to go, and today we are taking a look at Gryphon because his Hero Fest execution just came out, and I am super excited to take a look at this and talk to you guys about what I think about his executions. Now, for those of you who are new to this, take a look in the upper right-hand corner of the screen right now, or down in the description. You'll be led to a link for a video called That's an Execution, where I go over my rubric and I basically explain how all this works. But for those of you who already know about this and are familiar with the process, but just need a quick refresher, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take a look at all 6 of Gryphon's executions, and I'm going to grade them on 4 criteria. How lethal is it? How realistic is it? How efficient is it? And how cool is it? And then I'll give it an overall grade from somewhere between 0 and 16, and that will determine its grade. We'll then take all 6 of the grades and get an average, which completes Gryphon's grade in its entirety. Really looking forward to this one, guys. It's going to be a quicker one, but still, we're going to give Gryphon his day. All right, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. First up is Verdict of Chimera. All right, Verdict of Chimera. Well, for lethality, we're going to go ahead and give that a 4. The placement of the Bardiche is going straight into the upper chest. This is going to be impaling through the heart. This is definitely going to kill. There is no question. So that is a 4 for lethality. For realism, I'm going to give it a 3, and for only one reason. I do think it's a little questionable that you could one-handed shove the Bardiche that deep into someone. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think there's the potential you could do it, especially since the momentum is there. I think it's a possibility that you could do it, but I think it is a little questionable, so I'm going to give it a 3 on realism. For efficiency, though, I'm going to give it a 4. This is a very fast execution. It's very well done, and I do like that he brings the opponent to the ground to finish them off. I've always liked that. So that's a 4 for efficiency. And then for cool factor, I'm going to give it a 3. I think the only thing that holds it back from a 4, and it's the only thing, is I feel like some of the strikes to the side are a little lackluster. Like they don't feel that strong, and I'd like it if you just kind of slammed it into them a little bit. But, I mean, that's just me. I feel like if it had more power in the strikes, it would look a lot more impressive. But for what this is, I do like it. I think what I like so much about this execution is it's using all parts of the Bardiche, and it's using it in a creative way. The Bardiche is one of these weapons that, when I think of a polearm that could decapitate or cut someone down, this is my preferred weapon. You know, I feel like the Bardiche is a very underappreciated weapon, and I definitely love seeing it in action. This is a very cool weapon. Not a lot of people know about it. I think it's worth another look. So that gives this execution a 14 out of 16, which is an 88%. I really do like this execution. Next up is Chimera's Retribution. This is the new one. Ooh, okay. All right, so for lethality, the head came off, so that's an automatic 4 for lethality. When the head comes off, you're just dead. That's all there is to it. For realism, I'm going to give it a 2 for the decapitation alone. Look at this from the Warren's perspective. Yeah, so first of all, when you place the blade that close to somebody and then start the pressure and momentum from there, it becomes that much harder to take off the head. Usually with the decapitation weapon, you want to build up momentum and speed and power. Now, if he had taken the Bardiche and made a massive swing like he does at the beginning here, like this massive swing, then I might have actually bought it. I might have said, okay, that might be able to take off the head. But this, just putting it up there and then snip, no, I don't see that. Now, it could technically maybe slit the throat. It might cut the throat open. That might be what happens. But taking off the whole head, nah, I don't see that happening. So I'm going to give that a 2 for realism. And I give it a 2 and not a 1 for one reason. I give it a 2 because I do think you could have killed. I think you could have killed by just slitting the throat. So I do think that this is a definite kill, even without the decapitation. But with the decapitation, it just hurts it. So I'm sorry, I have to say that hurts it. So that's a 2 for realism. For efficiency, I'm going to give it a 3. This execution does take a little bit of time, and I think it is a little unfortunate that he kind of traps the weapon in the Warden here. Like, he just kind of keeps the Bardiche in there for a moment to punch him in the face, which, granted, is funny. But he needed to pull that out and get on with it, I feel like. It's not a big deal. It's not a bad thing, so I'm going to go with a 3 on that one. but still pretty solid. And then for cool factor, I gave it a 4. This is a very cool execution. I love seeing it. It looks really awesome. I think my biggest complaint right now is for the first 2 executions we've looked at, they both tie into Chimera, and I wish they wouldn't. I don't want everything about Gryphon to just be Chimera. I want it to be, you know, maybe a little bit more than just Chimera, maybe something more directly connected to him, but that's just me. So that gives this one a 13 out of 16, which is an 81%. Pretty solid. Next up is Crossed Off. All right, Crossed Off. For lethality, I'm going to give it a 3, and I'll explain why. I do think that there is a very high likelihood this would kill. But look at where the blade is placed. The first strike cuts across the back, but it's not, I can't tell if it's that deep. At most, you might be severing the spine, which would paralyze, yes, but not sure that would actually kill. And then the second strike brings the Bardiche down into the shoulder. Nothing's hitting anything vital except the spine, I guess. No, I mean, look at how deep the Bardiche goes into the shoulder. It's not even that deep. Look at this. Which is kind of funny because I thought, like, you know, with that kind of wind-up, it might go straight through and take off the arm. You know, that was my first thought, but I don't know. It's not going that deep for me to say that it's a definite kill. I mean, I have a pretty good feeling that the trauma from this would kill. And even if it didn't kill, cutting through the spine is going to incapacitate them indefinitely. So I'm going to give it a 3. But again, like I said, this isn't this isn't a great for incapacitation. It's for lethality. So if it's not killing, then that could be a problem. So I'm going to give it a 3 for lethality. For realism, I'll give it a 4. This is pretty realistic. I think you could do all of this. Like, I don't see any problem there. For efficiency, I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I like the momentum buildup. I like the speed at which this is done. Like, everything feels solid and flowing. I like that. And then for cool factor, I'm going to give it a 2. I don't know. There's something about this one that doesn't really speak to me as well. I guess maybe part of it is because I was expecting a lot more power and destruction from that Bardiche. I was expecting maybe for it to do a lot more than what it did. But, you know, again, for what it is, I can't bring myself to hate it. I think that it's still a really cool execution. I hope you guys like it too. So that gives this one an 81%. Another 13 out of 16, 81%. Not bad, just could have been better. Next up is Heads Will Roll. Oh, this one. Oh, man. Okay, so the head came off, so that's a lethality of 4, obviously. For realism, I'm going to give that a 2. All right, I wanted to give it a 1, but hear me out on this one. Here's the thing. Do I think that you could break the neck and head this way? Yes, actually, you could. Maybe not that graphically, and maybe even not that easily. I think that him just stepping on the body and doing that, I don't think that's how that worked. It would take a lot of effort to twist the head the way you did. But let's say that I even bought that. Let's just say, okay, sure, you can break the neck that way. You can break the head that way. Sure, I'll buy that. Okay, I'll give you that one. The head shouldn't have popped off. This isn't like screwing off a head, you know, like you can't do that. So I gave it a 2. I didn't give it a 1 just because I think the neck breaking aspect is a good aspect to have. I think that's a unique way to use the Bardiche. And I do believe that it could be done. Not that easily, but I do believe it could be done. It's the popping off of the head that bothers me. That bothers me. So I gave it a 2. For efficiency, I gave it a 2 as well. This takes too long, honestly. Like, especially when you consider that all you had to do was punch through with the bottom with the pommel of the Bardiche. I feel like all you had to do was do that and move on. It's not the slowest execution, and he does get it done relatively quicker than some, but I feel like this just took too long. Plus, considering how deep the pommel went into his head there, that alone should have been enough to kill, so I don't think the breaking off of the head was even necessary. And then for cool factor, I gave that a 2 as well. I do think it's brutal, and I think it's creative, but it takes too long, and there are better executions he has that I would rather apply to him, so this isn't one that I would necessarily recommend. It's unique, it's neat, but it just doesn't impress me. And you might be wondering, Raven, why are you giving so many 2s? Why not even 1s? And here's the thing. I think the reason why is because Gryphon has something going for him here. Like I said, this what he's doing here is creative. Like, there's something there, but I think it's going too far. Like, jabbing him into the face, okay. Breaking his neck this way, okay, questionable. Popping off the head, no, you lost me, you know? It's kind of like, you've got something there, you're just going too far, Gryphon. Backtrack a little bit, and this would be amazing. So I'm giving it a 10 out of 16, which is a 63%. There's something there, Gryphon. There's definitely something there. It's just, you're overreaching. You're overreaching. That's the problem. Next up, heads will fly. Well, it flew. The head came off, so that is a 4 for lethality. Unquestionably, this person is dead. For realism, I'm going to give it a 3. Okay, like I said, the Bardiche is one of these weapons that I think would have very little issue taking off a head if the momentum is given. The problem I see here is the direction in which the Bardiche is going. It's going up. This is not the direction you want to go when taking off a head. And the reason why is because when you want to decapitate a head, you either want a whole lot of momentum going in one direction, or, and even better, is if you can bring the momentum downward, let gravity help. Because if you can bring the momentum down, then gravity is going to help drive that through the head and actually help you in taking off the head. Going up is resisting gravity. You're going to have to use even more force to get the same result. So I'm afraid this hurts it a little bit. Do I think it could chop through the neck? Yeah, but just not all the way through. And even if it went all the way through, even if by some miracle you managed to get it all the way through the neck, the head wouldn't fly off like that. It wouldn't just, it would not pop up. That would not happen. So I'm going to have to give that a 3. For efficiency, it's a 4. This is fast. This is very quick and handled very well, so I like that. It's a very swift execution. And then for cool factor, I'm not going to lie, I really like this one. It's one of my favorites. I know that it's his most basic execution, but I love it. It's just so cool. I love the way he grabs hold of it. I love the way he just does his wind up, slop, bop. We're not, I don't know why, there's just something very satisfying to me about that. So that gives this one a 15 out of 16, which is a 94%. Well, best one so far, at least in terms of score. And then finally we have flipped over. Okay, well, given the placement of the Bardiche into his back, that'll kill. That's a 4 for lethality. It's going through probably the heart, the lungs, plenty of the internal organs are destroyed there, especially considering that when he starts to throw him over his shoulder like that, the Bardiche is moving upward, kind of cutting even more through, so that would do even more damage. It's kind of horrifying. Realism, though, I'm going to give it a 3. I do believe that if you were to put the shaft on your shoulder and give it enough force, you could throw someone. I also like that he didn't throw them super far. They just kind of landed right in front of him, which I can appreciate. I like that. It's not like the Highlander execution where Highlander just launched them several feet. This one is just slammed into the ground, which I can appreciate. I think the reason I give it a 3 is because of how deep the Bardiche goes into their body. It goes so far through with just a backwards thrust. And while I'm not saying it's entirely impossible, I am going to press X to doubt on this one. I'm going to say I'm not sure about that. So I'm going to have to give that a 3 for realism. For efficiency, I'm going to give it a 2. I don't like the fact that he attacked with his back to the enemy. I mean, he did it quick, but he still had his back to the enemy, which I don't like. And then the throw wasn't entirely necessary. All he had to do was pull out the Bardiche. This person's pretty much dead. For cool factor, I'm also going to give it a 2. I don't know. There's something I don't like here. Maybe it's the throw. Maybe it's how anticlimactic it was. Maybe I was just hoping for something more like, what if he pulled out the Bardiche and then spun around and then took off the head? It is so ironic to me that this weapon, which I do think could be a head cleaver, why doesn't he do any horizontal slashes at the head or any downward slashes at the neck? Like, I feel like he could do more of that, you know? Maybe it's just me. I feel like it's so weird. For Honor loves to throw decapitation after decapitation after decapitation. They love to see heads fly in these executions. But here we have a weapon that could definitely do it, and they're not doing it in the right way. They're not doing it in the way that would be most effective. So I find that kind of funny, but still, that gives this one an 11 out of 16, which is a 69%. I am contractually obligated at this point to say, giggity, let's move on. All right, guys, we did it. We finished up all of Gryphon's executions. So, what's the average? After taking all 6 of his scores and averaging them out, we get an average score of 79%. So, Gryphon's kind of on the high end of average. And you know what? I can understand why. None of his executions were super duper spectacular. None of them were making me just jump up and down going, wow-wee, that's so awesome. But there were also none that made me go, oh, this is so terrible, this is so bad. None of them really killed it for me. There were some, like for example, the heads will roll one. I feel like that one just, It didn't do anything for me. I felt like there's something there. There's some really creative ideas here because the Bardiche is not a weapon you see a whole lot. And I think that they've really got a neat idea here. They've got something going. They're just not, they're either not going all the way that they could or they're going too far and killing the realism aspect, which hurts it a little bit. He didn't get any ones in any category, but he didn't get any 100s either. You know what I'm saying? It's one of these things where I really like what they're trying to do with Gryphon, but they haven't fully reached it yet. Gryphon is such an interesting figure, isn't he? He is a knight who borrows ideas from multiple different factions. That makes him very versatile, very creative. There's a lot of unique stuff to take with Gryphon. I think the problem I have, though, is sometimes when you try to please everyone, you please no one. I'm very pleased, though, with some of the stuff we've seen from Gryphon. I'd just like to see more come from him. I'd like to see a little bit more explored with my boy Gryphon. I'd like to see the Bardiche used the way it was intended with these really cool overhead or horizontal decapitations. I do like some of the creativity, like with Verdict of Chimera, where he used all parts of it. I thought that was cool. But I also noticed there's another problem. They're getting a little bit focused with him. Like, for example, 2 of his executions were Verdict of Chimera and Chimera's Retribution, very focused on Chimera. And then the other 2, the names, heads will roll, heads will fly. It's kind of repetitive. I get the feeling that For Honor isn't quite sure what they want to do with Gryphon. They released him, he's out there, he's now the face of Chimera. Now what? You know, I feel like Gryphon is a character that they like, but they're not sure what to do with. And I think that kind of shows in the executions. The executions are cool, but I get the feeling they're kind of at Gryphon right now. They're not sure what to do. And that's understandable. I don't hate them for it. I really like most of his executions, but that's going to wrap up this video. What do you guys think? Do you think that 79 is fair? Do you think that you agree with my scores? Do you think that I'm wrong or right? Let me know respectfully down in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.